Tuesday, ladies. Hope everybody's having a great week so far. I'm just going to give it a second to connect to Facebook. Also going to take the chance here to fix my mic so that it's higher up. Got a standing desk, but it has to make sense with where my webcam is. Okay, I think we're good on Facebook. Let's go live here. And then I'm going to go live on Instagram. Okay. Are we live? We are good on Facebook. Perfect. And we're good on Instagram too. Perfect. All right, ladies, happy Tuesday again. And I hope everybody is doing well, staying warm if you are in the cold like I am. And if you got hit with a lot of snow, that storm, I hope you and your loved ones are warm and safe. So today we're going to be diving in into carbs and why carbs are necessary at every stage of your female life. Okay, so whether you're in your reproductive years, whether you're postpartum, whether you're in perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, well, perimenopause or postmenopause and beyond, carbs are essential. If you're catching this live and you're watching it live, say hi in the comments. Let me know if you could see me, if you could hear me. And if you're catching the replay, welcome as well. And I'm glad you're able to join in on the replay and comment below as well to let me know where you're watching from. So today we're going to be talking about, again, like why carbs are so essential and what happens, like why cutting them out or, just lowering your carbs, going low carb may lead to fast scale loss. So the number on the scale goes down, but not real fat loss. And always almost ends up in regaining weight, regaining fat, regaining what you've lost and even more. And just to be clear right from the start, this is not like this talk isn't going to be like eat all the carbs message, right? It's really, I want to give you perspective in terms of what your biology needs, what your female biology needs. And if you're new here, if you're new to my Instagram page, first time tuning in live on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook, I'm Alexis Truleo, and I'm a biologist and founder of Flexus Fitness. And for the last 10 plus years, more than 10 years now, I've worked with over 1,000 high-performing women who are disciplined, capable, successful in their lives, but just frustrated that their body isn't following along with that, right? Their body's no longer keeping up with that, no longer responding the same way that it used to. And they're the type of women who refuse to let hormone shifts happen to them. And instead, they want to get back into the driver's seat so that they can influence how their body adapts rather than, feeling at the mercy of the hormonal shifts. So if you're that type of woman too, who takes agency over your own health and doesn't want to settle for feeling that way, you're in the right place. And I'm glad that you're listening to this talk today to learn more about it. So I see no sound here. Okay, I'm not sure why no sound on Instagram. You should be able to hear me. Let me just make sure. Okay, let me know if it's better now. And yeah, guys, so let me ask you something before we talk about this. Have you ever, perhaps cut carbs, or maybe like you cut carbs, you watch the scale drop quickly, you felt good for a few weeks, you felt excited for a few weeks, only to realize after a few weeks, if it even lasted that long, personally, I wouldn't be able to cut carbs that long, but let's say it lasted that long, your body wasn't looking any leaner, wasn't having muscle definition, your energy was tanking, your sleep recovery just felt more difficult, your workouts felt worse because you weren't sleeping well, you weren't recovering well, and eventually the weight crept back on, right? Sometimes more than before, like I mentioned before. So if that sounds familiar, I want you to know something really important. That wasn't fat loss, that was capacity loss. And what I mean by that is that distinction is going to change everything for you when I'm talking about this. So most women assume, okay, lower carbs, my insulin, lower insulin, I'm going to lose more fat, right? Because now insulin has become like a buzzword nowadays too, right? And blood sugar and all that. But that logic is incomplete, especially for women. Because yes, when you do cut carbs, your glycogen drops, your glycogen stores drop, water weight drops, inflammation may temporarily drop, and the scale, again, because of all that, the scale will move. You will see a decline. But here's what also happens at the same time alongside that. training quality drops, right? You have less energy, less strength to push harder in your training. Muscle stimulation, so your body's ability to build muscle and even preserve it drops because we need carbs and protein to build muscle. Your thyroid output starts to slow down. Stress hormones rise as a response to the decrease, and your body just becomes less capable of handling carbs. So while, again, the scale weight may drop quickly, your fat burning machinery is quietly shutting down. So that's why it never actually lasts, because you're not repatterning how your body is responding to carbs, how your body is able to handle carbs better. So that's the reframe I really want you to take away from this talk today. And we're going to get into all of it, but I really want you to hear this loud and clear. Fat loss is not about avoiding carbs, okay? Fat loss is about building a body that can burn them efficiently. And that's what we're really all about here at Flexus Fitness, is like increasing your body's capacity to burn more fat, metabolize carbs better, have more muscle, because that is going to dictate how you feel day to day now and feel your best now, but also set you up for the years and years to come. And for women, that capacity is built, not restricted. Okay. So it's not like carbs don't just provide your body with energy. They influence many different things in your body. Okay. Many different systems in your body. Just in terms of like insulin. So insulin signaling, cortisol. I'm sure you guys have heard of that one, right? Cortisol, stress, cortisol output, your thyroid hormones, estrogen, progesterone balance. So those ratios that really, really become key for symptom management, muscle protein synthesis. And that's when carbs are chronically too low. When you keep restricting carbs, cortisol, your stress hormones, are going to rise to compensate. Muscle breakdown increases. So even if you're doing all the workouts, you're putting in all this effort, you're not going to build muscle. You're just going to break it down even quicker. Recovery worsens, and your body adapts to all that by not getting better at using carbs and burning them, but it actually becomes more sensitive to them, right? So that's where this is the part where a lot of women, there's like that misstep in terms of how they're approaching it, is that it's not about restricting. And that's where, like, when you're told, especially during perimenopause, a lot of women are told like, oh, you're more carb sensitive at this point, you have to like watch carb intake. It doesn't mean avoid carbs. Okay, it means your capacity to handle them has reduced, but that doesn't mean that you're stuck there. It just means that the solution is not to lower that capacity even more, right? We don't want to further restrict and reduce that capacity even more. We want to make sure that we're increasing that capacity. So just that's what we're gonna get down to in a bit, or I'm gonna explain all that in terms of like how you want to go increase your body's capacity to handle carbs better and burn carbs better. But if you are watching, so if you are in your reproductive years, meaning you're still cycling, you're still getting menstrual cycle, carbs are so important for a few things. Okay, so like in terms of that, like carbs support your ability to ovulate. That impacts your ability to produce progesterone, which is one of our sex hormones. And ultimately, that leads to more stable energy, better mood. And when you cut carbs during this time, there's certain times throughout your cycle too where you're even more like sensitive to how many carbs you're getting. But when you cut carbs here, the body senses that as a stressor. And that's when reproductive hormones start to downshift. That's for a lot of women, that again, like it impacts your energy, your training, all that. But even just in terms of cravings, your cravings start to increase. And then it feels like you're fighting against this, you're trying to restrict carbs, you're trying to be good, but yet you're craving all these things. And muscle recovery suffers. And that's where fat loss, again, like weight loss, I should say, not even fat loss, weight loss may appear on the scale, but muscle loss often comes with that. Now, if you're perimenopausal or beyond, so meaning perimenopausal, perhaps maybe you're still getting regular periods, but you're feeling a shift in terms of how your body feels day to day. Maybe your sleep, your mood, energy, joint pain. There's a list of symptoms that you may be experiencing, but or your period is more irregular, it's more erratic. Then this is where a lot of women hear, okay, like you're more carb sensitive now, so you should be eating fewer carbs. But here's what this actually means biologically. During perimenopause, estrogen and progesterone, so your one of your like two of your sex hormones, they become more erratic. Okay, so it's almost like reverse puberty, like your hormones are on a roller coaster. This accelerates muscle loss, which is why like you're probably seeing everywhere, like you gotta strength train, especially if you're over 35, you gotta focus on strength training, super, super important. Not only does it decrease, like it accelerates muscle loss, but it also impacts insulin signaling, meaning that becomes less efficient. So again, your buffer to metabolize carbs, utilize carbs changes, and your stress tolerance declines as well because of the drop in hormones, the fluctuation in hormones. So when you cut carbs, all you're doing is you're going to impact your training intensity, meaning you're not going to have the same energy to give in your workouts. That's going to impact your body's ability to stimulate muscle growth, meaning the less muscle you have, the harder it is for your body to use carbs, uptake that, and use it for energy, and use like muscle is the very tissue that is going to help you clear glucose out of your body. So again, like you don't fix carbs by avoiding them or decreasing them. You fix it by making sure you're doing things that are going to help your body preserve the lean muscle you already do have and build up on it. And that's ultimately what's going to help you with just rebuild your metabolic capacity during this stage of life and beyond, but also set you up for more energy, more strength, more, just for the years to come. And that's where low carb for a lot of women in the past, if in your 20s, 30s, okay, you cut carbs and it leads to, less body weight. But it also leads to softer body composition, right? Like less muscle definition, more what women like to say flabby, right? Worse energy, poor sleep, and like I keep saying, rapid regain once carbs return. So during perimenopause, it is not a good idea to cut carbs, to go low carb, to go keto, if your goal is to attenuate symptoms like sleep issues, hot flashes, brain fog. If your goal is to reduce the intensity of those symptoms, cutting carbs is just going to make it worse because you're decreasing your body's capacity to do the very thing that is going to allow you to use carbs better. Now, if you're somebody who's postmenopausal, meaning your period has cessated, so it's been more than 12 months, you haven't had a period, you've gone through the transition, perhaps you're still experiencing certain symptoms, but you're technically postmenopausal. Muscle at this point is literally the primary glucose sink. Okay, so like the more muscle you have, the more strength that you're building during this stage is going to improve your metabolic health. At the same time, it's not just about, training a ton, going, doing a bunch of like working out every single day and you have to dedicate your whole life to health and fitness and nutrition. It's not about that. At this point too, recovery matters even more now. So that being said, if you are an active woman and you are putting in the work, you're doing, strength training, you're working out, you're staying active, but if your carbs are too low, and this is something that we see in a lot of women that come to us, a lot of active women who are actually underfueling, and they feel like they're like, oh no, like I'm probably eating too much or I'm not, but they're actually underfueling. And if your carbs especially are too low, again, you're not going to be able to train hard enough to stimulate that muscle response that we need. Muscle loss, again, is going to accelerate, like I keep saying, and your body becomes even less capable of handling carbs. Okay. So you see the theme here, right? This is why long-term low carb often leads to more, just fragile, right? You're becoming, you're still like, you feel like you're restricting, right? But you don't feel that strength. You don't feel that energy. You don't feel that ability to push your workouts. So that's the most important distinction, is like scale, the scale could show a quick drop, accelerates that drop, while fat stays the same or even increases. So low carb weight loss, if you've seen success on it before, is often related to water loss, also just like reduced content in your gut, and muscle loss, which is the exact thing we want to counteract, especially if you're a woman over 35, approaching perimenopause and beyond. So true fat loss really looks like strength going up, energy improving, clothes fitting differently. That's like the main telltale sign, and stable results with carbs still being in your diet. You should be able to still enjoy, carbs and things like pizza, if you like them, of course, pizza, bread, and if you could tolerate them, pizza, bread, pasta, whatever the case. If the only way to keep your weight stable or keep fat loss stable is to keep cutting carbs out forever, that's not success. Okay. Personally, I think that's a very sad life. And that's where the real goal for women at this point, if your goal is to increase your body's capacity now to feel your best and set it up for the long term, is number one, focus on things that are actually going to build muscle. Focus on things that are going to improve your insulin signaling, which is a mix of the type of workouts you're doing, recovery, other lifestyle patterns, and nutrition being the biggest one too. Focus on things that are going to improve your body's ability to tolerate carbs, and doing things that are going to overall just like really support the underlying biology, so the systems in your body, to get your hormones working better for you. And that's where like carbs don't have to be removed. Carbs are like, once you increase your body's internal environment, like capacity to use them, it becomes a lot easier to moderate them, right? Like you don't have to worry so much about, again, like the yo-yoing and going up and down. And that's where, like, if you've ever felt like you've lost weight when you cut carbs, and that's the only way, I hear this from so many women, they're like, the only way that I could keep weight off or feel in control of my weight is if I cut carbs, but then they can never keep it off, right? The results never stick. Now you know why, because if you're not improving, rewiring how your body is working to modulate the carbs, then you're just going to end up back in the same spot over and over again. That cycle of like having to cut more, restrict more. And then eventually that just continues to decrease your body's capacity to burn more. So your body adapts exactly as it's designed to. And your body is an amazing machine. It's a smart machine. And this is why this is the exact work that we help women with. It's not just adding, if you've done low carb, for example, like if you've done years of low carb, it's not just like adding carbs back in randomly. It's not just about telling you to eat more, and definitely not swinging from low carb to like, up and down, but really rewiring how your body is working from the inside out. So that way you're doing things that are maintaining your lean muscle mass and building up on it. Like I keep saying, improving your carb tolerance, improving, like lowering that stress on your system too, and creating the body that could actually use the food again that you're eating and gain more out of everything you're doing, the workouts that you're doing. So that's where, if your goal is at this point, like you're somebody who's like, okay, like I not only want to feel good physically, but I want to set my body up so it feels more capable as I continue to age. I want to focus on longevity, prevention. I want to feel stable and in control of my body. Your goal right now shouldn't be weight loss, okay? Your goal should be fat loss and muscle gain. And that ultimately, like the more muscle you have, is literally going to set you up for how you experience everything. Your energy, your hunger, your appetite, your hunger, your ability to sleep, your ability to manage symptoms. That's where we really want to focus on things that are going to improve how your body is able to keep muscle and build up on it. So that being said, if fat loss becomes something that your body allows instead of something you have to force, that's the goal isn't to live in live in fear of carbs forever. Okay. The goal is to build a body that's strong enough and resilient enough to handle them. And if you're thinking, if you're there saying there and you're like, you know what, like, okay, this makes sense why what I've been doing hasn't worked or hasn't lasted, but I don't necessarily know what's holding my body back. Like a lot of women that come to us, they're strength training, they're eating good quality food, but they're lacking strategy around that. And that's where it's not just about doing random strength workouts, Eating, good quality food is a great foundation. But if there's no strategy in terms of how you're doing that and the signals your body's getting in and around that to build muscle, that's when you kind of plateau, right? And you don't know which levers to pull from here. So if you're in that spot right now where you're like, okay, this sounds good, Alexis, and like I understand this, and like you validated my mindset of like wanting to build muscle and how important it is to like increase my body's capacity to use carbs better, but I still don't know how to go about it from here. I don't know what my body might be lacking. I feel like I'm doing all the right things. That's exactly what we do. And these are the type of women that we help. You don't need another diet. You don't need to be more disciplined or rigid with what you're doing. You need to make sure that what you're doing is working within, like making sure that you're building a body that works with you again. So if you're wanting that, and you want to chat more about it, again, like just have a conversation around of like what you're doing, what might be holding you back. For a lot of women that come to us, like I said, they have the pieces, but they're looking at the body in terms of working in silos, right? Of just like, okay, I'm going to focus on upping my protein. I'm going to focus on eating, less and moving more. But your body never works in isolation. It works by getting the systems beneath communicating better. That's exactly what we focus on, especially if you're perimenopausal, postmenopausal, and the hormone shifts affect how your body is adapting to those shifts and affecting how your body is responding to all that. This is where that's the type of work that we focus on. So if you want that, if you want to have a conversation around that, if you have any questions about this specifically, feel free to reach out. Just comment below. You could DM me personally, you can message me personally, or comment below capacity, and I'll reach out to you where we could look at where that misalignment is, what needs rebuilding, and whether or not we're actually, the right team to help you with this, right? So thanks for being here, guys. Thanks for joining in. And if you have any questions about this, I love talking about carbs and why they're important. If you want anything else specific to this, I just wanted to get the message across of like why it's important and how carbs impact so much more in our body than you may realize. So I hope this made you think of something, and if there's anything else that you have questions about when it comes to this, let me know below. I'm happy to do another training on it. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day and stay warm if you are somewhere where it's cold, and I'll talk to you guys later. Take care, guys.